Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's informational webinar for the Re-X Before Recycling Prize. We are excited that you are here and we're looking forward to telling you about this amazing opportunity. My name is Kaylee Isaacs, and I am from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. I'm the prize administrator for the Re-X Before Recycling Prize. And today I am joined by Kate Peretti from the U.S. Department of Energy, Advanced Materials and Manufacturing Technologies Office. We're very pleased to have you all here today. A few housekeeping items before we dive in. We have two options for audio. You can either listen through your computer or listen through your phone. If you have any questions during today's webinar, please utilize the Q&A feature that's at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible, but all of your questions will be answered in writing and they will be posted on to HeroX after the webinar. If you have any trouble with today's webinar, please feel free to chat the webinar host, and our panelists will try to assist you to our best ability. And then lastly, we'll be posting a recording of today's webinar along with the slides of this presentation onto HeroX. So this presentation is being recorded and will be posted onto HeroX after this webinar today. For our agenda today, we'll plan to cover the following: the background of the Re-X Before Recycling Prize, an overview of the prize. We'll talk about phase 1 and what you need to know. We'll also briefly talk about phase 2 and 3 and what to expect if you are selected, how to get started, and then we will be answering questions at the end if we have time. And some more information before we get started. The Re-X Before Recycling Prize was established by the U.S. Department of Energy's Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy and the Advanced Materials and Manufacturing Technologies Office. The prize is a part of the American Made Challenges program and is administered by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. To help you be the most successful for this prize, please make sure you read the official prize rules before applying. The prize rules are available on our American Made Challenges website as well as HeroX. You can find them on HeroX by going to the homepage and then going to the resources tab and finding them there. It's the first link on that HeroX page. And I just would like to reiterate that this is very important for you to read these prize rules. It will help you answer some of your questions, help guide you in what we're looking for. It's a great resource to go back to while you're applying for this prize. All right, now I'd like to hand it over to Kate Peretti from AMTO, who will be providing some background on the prize. Over to you, Kate.
Thanks, Kaylee. Just briefly on the background of why we are launching this prize and why we're interested in the innovations that you all have to offer. So our current economy, the way that we use materials is traditionally and predominantly still a linear model in which we extract resources, we make goods, we use those goods, and then they end up being discarded and effectively waste. And so what we are trying to do, and in recognition that in order to reach our emissions targets of net zero by 2050, we really have to start using, making, circulating materials in a more circular way, such that we're not having to do so much extraction, and that we can reuse materials so that they're passing through sort of that cycle multiple times, rather than having a single life cycle. We recognize that recycling plays a vital role in helping us achieve a more circular economy for materials. However, this prize is really dedicated to all of the other quote unquote REX pathways that we can leverage before material has to be recycled at its end of life. So then next slide, and we'll talk a little bit about more, what those pathways are that we are interested in. The prize is really designed to stimulate innovation and stimulate investment. So we're recognizing that as if you look across that supply chain, we have a lot of people who are having to interact across that supply chain, and we're interested in using this prize as a catalyst to bring those folks together so that they can unite that supply chain, create circular supply networks, and contribute to this more sustainable economy. We are also looking at developing these new or expanded supply chains so that we can take end of use products and ensure that they still have a useful life in the economy via reuse, repair, refurbishment, remanufacturing, or repurposing. And those are the REX pathways that I mentioned, and we'll talk a little bit later about what counts in those different buckets. And I think I'm handing it back over to you, Kaylee.
Thanks, Kate. All right, now that we have some background on how the prize came to be, let's get into what this prize is. So the REX Before Recycling prize is a $5.6 million prize with a total of $4.5 million in cash prizes and $1.1 million in technical assistance from national laboratories. The prize is designed to spur innovations to extend the lifetimes of products or parts to overcome difficulties with transitioning the U.S. from a linear to a more circular economy. The REX Before Recycling prize has 3 phases: identify, prepare, and develop. Phase 1, identify, opened on November 27th and runs through March 12th. In this phase, competitors will identify a new or expanded REX supply chain opportunity, including potential community benefits, and create a plan to develop the innovation needed to realize the opportunity. In phase 2, competitors will begin deepening their insight into the opportunity, refining their plan, and activating a network of partners to help advance their innovation. And in phase 3, competitors will continue to progress to execute their plan and prepare for how they will continue their innovation post-prize. Again, as mentioned, this is a $5.6 million prize. The table here on the screen details the prize amounts for each of the 3 phases. And phase 1 will last for 3.5 months. And winners will receive $50,000 in cash per winner and up to $5,000 of analyst consulting to use in phase 2. And we're looking to award up to 20 winners in phase 1. Phase 2 winners will receive $150,000 in cash per winner and up to $100,000 in analyst technical assistance to use in phase 3. This phase will last approximately 6 months, and we're looking to award up to 10 winners. And then phase 3 winners will receive $500,000 in cash per winner. This phase will last up to 12 months, and we're looking to award up to 4 winners. In total, each competitor has the opportunity to win up to $700,000 in cash and up to $105,000 in national laboratory support. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Kate, who's going to talk more about what is in scope and some of that analyst technical assistance. Over to you, Kate.
Thanks, Kaylee. Yeah, so just want to highlight the technical assistance that we're offering as part of the prize. So Kaylee mentioned there's 2 opportunities to leverage the sort of unique resources that the national labs have, particularly in analysis including life cycle analysis and techno-economic analysis for these technologies. So winners in phase 1 will be able to leverage just kind of, light consulting that could contribute to either one of these, really intending to improve, the ideation and the planning that goes into a phase 2 submission. Phase 2 winners will get some technical assistance around LCA and TEA. So when we talk about life cycle analysis, it's a methodology for assessing environmental impacts associated with the full life cycle of a product or process. So that's looking across hopefully multiple cycles, what is needed, what interventions are needed to keep that product in use. It's looking at the impacts of all of those things and comparing it against that linear model of make, use, and waste. And then the TEA is techno-economic analysis, really looking at the economic performance of a technology and sort of assessing the pieces of that supply chain or the pieces of the process that is being proposed, and where the economic performance and the commercial viability may be strengthened in a later phase. Next slide. So we're looking at 2 different topic areas for this. One would be established waste systems. These are materials that have been in circulation for years now. We have established waste streams for them. So, things like consumer electronics, things like, plastics, paper, glass, metals, sort of conventional materials that we've been making and using for a long time. And then we have emerging waste streams that are really, things that are emerging technologies or components that that are ramping up production now and will be a future waste stream or, a future waste problem if we don't tackle that and come up with solutions now to be able to divert those waste streams into more useful pathways. Next slide. All right, so I mentioned we would talk a little bit more, and at least on my screen, this is cut off a little bit. So I'll make sure, but I would point you to the rules document, which has all of this information really spelled out in detail, and you'll be able to sit with it a little bit longer than this webinar. So we're looking at reuse, repair, refurbish, remanufacture, and repurpose. For reuse, it's effectively taking a product or a component and using it as long as it's still, in good condition in its original function. Repair is taking either, that full product or a component of that product and making sure, fixing some defective piece of it and making sure that it can be used in its original function. Refurbish is where, maybe there's not anything wrong with, said item. It still can perform its original function, but you're bringing it up to date so that it can, extend its useful lifetime. Remanufacture and repurpose are very similar. One is, using discarded products in the same function, just maybe in a new product. And repurpose is taking that product and using it for a different function. All right, next slide. I don't want to go into detail about every example. I would just, again, point you to the rules document and say, this is a pretty broad prize, and we're looking for really creative solutions to this challenging problem. We are looking for solutions that can actually be deployed and have a likelihood of being deployed and potentially replicated across the country, or at least in multiple places in the country. So one example might be right in the middle, this establishment of a community reuse program in a new location that was potentially successful somewhere else. So that's something where, you know, we're taking an existing process or system and applying it to a new setting. And then there are also, you know, more first of a kind innovative supply chains that might, you know, recover components that are currently not recovered, and developing a process and a supply chain that is able to, you know, economically and effectively, efficiently recover those components, requalify them, and sort of certify them for reuse in new devices. So those are maybe two different examples, but several out there in the rules document for you to peruse. We did want to highlight that there are some areas that are explicitly not of interest in this prize. We mentioned that for this prize, we're really looking at what are the interventions that we can make before we get to recycling. And we, again, recognize how vitally important recycling is. But trying to sort of shine a light on all of the other REX pathways that maybe don't get as much attention as recycling. So for this particular prize, we are not interested in approaches or innovations that rely on recycling as the, you know, mechanism to recover these end-of-life products and convert the materials into new products. We are not interested in approaches or innovations that look at redesign specifically for recycling. We are interested in redesign for other pathways such as you know, reuse, repair, refurbish, but not redesign specifically. That, you know, that the only purpose for that redesign would be to allow it to be, you know, recycled. And then we are also from a materials perspective, we are not interested in food, yard, or organic agricultural waste in the scope of this particular prize. And if you have questions, I mean, we're happy to answer questions as part of this webinar, but I would also, again, continue to point you to the rules, and everything is spelled out there. Thanks, Kaylee.
Thanks, Kate. And yes, just like Kate had said, please take a look at the rules. That will help you see what is in scope and what is out of scope for this prize. And again, as Kate mentioned, you can ask those questions in this webinar, and we'll try our best to get those answered during this webinar, but we will be posting all of those questions and their written answers onto HeroX. All right, let's get into who can participate for the REX Before Recycling prize. This prize is open to individuals and teams of individuals, private entities, which can include for-profits and nonprofits, and non-federal government entities, which can include states, counties, tribes, municipalities, and academic institutions. You can read more about the full eligibility in the prize rules. Now we're at phase 1, identify and what you need to know. There are 2 goals of phase 1 identify. First, it's opportunity and innovation identification. And the second one is plan development. By the end of this phase, you should identify an innovation that, if implemented in a new or expanded REX supply chain, would deliver substantial environmental, economic, and community benefits, and develop a plan to advance the identified innovation from its current state toward implementation in a viable REX supply chain. Up to 20 winners will be selected at the end of this phase, and selected winners will receive $50,000 in cash and up to $5,000 in analyst consultation from a national lab. This first phase is currently open with a submission deadline through March 12th, 2024. 5 p.m. Eastern time. We're about 8 weeks away from that submission deadline. And we're anticipating announcing these winners in April to May of 2024. For your phase 1 submission package, you will need to submit a cover page, a 90-second online video, a summary slide of your submission, an analyst support work slide, and a narrative. There are only 2 items here that will be made public, which is the online video and your submission summary slide. Additionally, only one of these items is scored, which is the narrative. All of these are required for your submission. The first requirement is this cover page. This information will be collected through the HeroX submission form and is not a separate document upload. So these are the questions that we'll be asking here on the cover page. And this is required. It will not be scored and it will not be made public. Your next requirement is the 90-second online video. This video should answer the question, what is your innovation? Please make sure you post your video publicly and it is accessible. We recommend that you focus on the required content and not the production quality. And then as a reminder, this will be made public. It is required, but it will not be scored. The third requirement for your submission is a summary slide about your submission. It should contain technically specific details, but can be understood by most people. Again, this is required and it will be made public, but this is not a scored item. Your next submission requirement is the analyst support work slide. This should briefly describe any analyst that your team has already done, describe how the technical support and consultation for analysis from a national lab will help your team, identify which types of analysts would provide the most insight, and list your top 3 choices of national labs that you would like from the identified 5. The purpose of the analyst support work slide is to facilitate matching winning teams with appropriate national lab analyst consulting during phase 2. So again, this is required. It will not be scored and it will not be made public. The last required submission item is the narrative. In the narrative, you should answer the 5 questions. Each question has suggested content or suggested content with it, along with the judging criteria. The narrative should not exceed more than 2,500 words. You may add up to 5 supporting images, figures, or graphs. There is a template available for you to use, and you can find that on HeroX under the resources tab. This narrative is required. It will be scored. It is the only scored item of your submission, and it will not be made public. One of the things that we want to highlight from the narrative is the community benefits plan that you will be considering as you identify your innovation and develop your plan to advance your innovation. Your narrative must address the community benefits plan and must address at least one of the following topic areas in your plan: diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, environmental justice, and workforce implications. You can find more information about these topics in Appendix B in the official rules. As part of your narrative, you will be asked to identify and justify appropriate target metrics for your innovation and REACT supply chain. To be successful, you should demonstrate pathways by which your innovation will reduce waste, promote greater resource productivity, show cost competitiveness, advance resiliency to resource scarcity issues in the future, and reduce environmental impacts of production and consumption. We have provided some example metrics to help guide your metrics, and you can find more information about those metrics in Appendix C in the official rules. So as I had mentioned, that the narrative is the only item that is going to be scored, and we have a scoring rubric here. And so I wanted to show you how to read that scoring rubric. And within the narrative, each section is weighted. And so this is how you can read it. In the left column, Highlighted yellow will be the topic you are addressing, as well as the weight percentage for that section. In this example on our slide, we have innovation as the topic, and it is 20% weighted of your total score. In the middle column, excuse me for that slide change, in the middle column is the suggested content to provide. There are several suggested content bullets you could provide to address the judging criteria. And lastly, in the right column, where it's blue here, you will see what your score will be based on. So this is the judging criteria that the reviewers will use to score your submission. So we have tried to make it pretty clear. This is what we'll be judging on in that blue column here. For each submission, to go more over in the scoring overview, each submission will be reviewed by a panel of reviewers who will score and provide comments. Expert reviewers will evaluate your submission by assigning a single score, 0 through 5, for each scored submission section, based on their overall agreement or disagreement with a series of statements, which is strongly agree to strongly disagree. As you can see on the slide, 0 is strongly disagree to 5 is strongly agree. The final score from an individual reviewer will be calculated based on the weighing shown. All reviewer scores will then be averaged for a final reviewer score for the submission package. The Department of Energy is the final judge and will make selections based on reviewer scores and comments, as well as program policy factors. Additionally, the prize administration team may decide to hold interviews with teams to clarify any questions or information before announcement of winners. Interviews are not an indication of winning. And if you want to find more information about those program policy factors, you can find them on page 39 of the official rules. And now that you know what you need to submit for phase 1, we're going to do a quick demo of HeroX, which is our prize platform and what you'll be submitting through. I would like for you to follow along. If possible, you can follow along at www.herox.com/rex before recycling. And we'll drop that into the chat so you can follow along with us. All right. So here is our HeroX page. Again, this is the link here. This is how you'll find our HeroX page and how to apply for this prize. This is our main page. More information about the prize is located here. You can find more about those topics and our prize structure. These are each of our tabs that are important for the prize and for you. If you go to timeline here, has all the important dates. So you can see we're coming up to that submission deadline on March 12th. Updates, this is where we'll post any important updates. So like we have an update about the webinar happening today. So if we have any information that needs to be conveyed to our competitors, we will be posting it here. On our forum here, this is a great resource for you because it is where you can ask questions and look at already existing answers. If you have any questions, you can ask them here and we'll do our best to get back to you as quickly as possible. And then also here is where we've already received questions, whether that was through email or our previous informational webinar. So I would highly recommend you check out the forum section, see if maybe another competitor has had a similar question to you and it may have already been answered. On Teams, this is where you are located and this is where all of our interested competitors are. On entries, this is where you'll find your entry once you submit one. Resources, again, another fantastic resource for our competitors. This is where you're going to find the official rules. We had a webinar in December on December 14th. So we have our slides here and the recording is also here. So if you want to check out that webinar. And then here are our narrative templates for the next 3 phases. Our FAQs, if you have some more questions, you can look here. And our power connectors, we have power connectors that are assisting us with this prize in terms of recruitment, outreach, and are also assisting our competitors in their application. So if you have any questions on your application, you can reach out to these two power connectors, which is Ensemble and Yet2, and they are more than happy to assist you. I'll talk about them a little bit more at the end of this presentation, but this is free for you to use. They are a support and a resource for you. And then lastly is our teaming here. If you're interested in partnering with another private entity or nonprofit, or maybe it's an academic institution, or maybe just another individual, you're interested in teaming up with another person, I would highly recommend coming to this tab, filling out our form, and then we'll add it to our teaming database here. This is to help match those that are interested in teaming and to see who is out there. All right, so those are all of our tabs for HeroX and the information that you can find here. If you are interested in applying for the prize, you'll have to make sure that you're following it already. I am. And here you'll see a tab. I have already started my entry to show as a demonstration, but here it'll say solve this challenge, and that's when you'll click it. You'll agree to our terms for this prize, and then you can begin your entry. So for this purpose of demo, I'm going to go ahead and begin our entry here. And this is where you're going to give your submission a title. This can be whatever your submission is about, whatever your innovation is about. A short description, this is not required, but you can write that if you'd like. It'll and then an image. Again, this is not required as well, but you can put an image if you have an image you'd like to do. Then you're going to do your eligibility acknowledgement, making sure that you're eligible for this prize. And then below is the cover page, as we had mentioned, is required for this submission phase, the narrative where you'll upload that, your submission summary slide that you'll upload, as well as your analyst support work slide. And then we have some other more questions here. You can save this at any time. You can save and preview, so you can come back to this. But once the deadline of 5 p.m. Eastern time hits on March 12th, that is it. And you will not be able to go through and edit your submission. So make sure that you get your submission in before that deadline. And if you have any questions or any issues with HeroX, please reach out to us and let us know, and we will be happy to assist. All right. We are going to get back into the presentation and talk about phase 2 and phase 3 and what to expect for these phases. Excuse me. So during our phase 2 prepare, we will be focusing on deepening insight by leveraging national lab support, refining your plan to advance your innovation towards implementation, and cultivating a network of mentors and partners to help you advance your innovation. In this phase, you do not need to be a winner of phase 1 to compete. In this phase is open to any competitor as long as they meet the eligibility requirements. So if you did not meet that deadline in phase 1 and you still want to try and compete in phase 2, you are welcome to, which is a great thing about this phase. It's open to anybody as long as they meet those requirements. Along in this phase, winners will have the opportunity to win $150,000 in cash and up to $100,000 in analyst technical assistance from a national lab. And again, we'll be offering this up to 10 winners for this phase. Our timeline for phase 2, we're anticipating launching this phase in April and expecting to have this submission deadline in October of 2024. From April to October, 2024, the phase 1 winners who will receive their $5,000 of analyst consultation will be using that. So from April to October, that's when they'll be doing that consultation work with their national lab. And then we will expect to announce winners in November of 2024. Similar to phase 1, competitors will be submitting 5 items for phase 2. They will be a cover page, a 90-second online video, a submission summary slide, analyst support work slide, and the narrative. Please note that the online video and summary slide will be made public. And I'm not going to go into detail about each of these items, but you can find more information about these requirements in the official rules. During phase 3, develop, we will be focusing on demonstrating your innovation and how it's making progress, and executing the plan, ensuring your innovation can be implemented through your partnerships, and developing a long-term plan for your innovation so your innovation will be successful post-prize. So those are our goals for this phase. And then in this phase, you must be a winner of phase 2 to compete in this phase. So unlike phase 2, where anyone could compete, in phase 3, you will have to have been selected in phase 2 to move on to phase 3. In this phase, 4 winners will be selected, or up to 4 winners will be selected, and they will have the opportunity to win $500,000 each in cash. So this total phase offers $2 million in cash prizes. For our phase 3 develop timeline, we're anticipating launching this in January of 2025 with a submission deadline of December of 2025. From January to December, the phase 2 winners will receive their $100,000 technical assistance analyst that they can use, to use at a national lab. So during January to December, almost that full year, that's when you'll be working with a national lab. And then we're anticipating announcing these winners in January of 2026. For phase 3, competitors will be submitting 6 items: a cover page, a 90-second online video, the submission summary slide, a committed partnership or support letter, an environmental questionnaire, and the narrative. Again, please note that the online video and the summary slide will be made public. And you can see that we have additional requirements of this committed partnership or support letter and environmental questionnaire. These items are required for your narrative, for your whole submission. Everything's required. But this will be, that committed partnership is very important for your narrative. And again, I'm not going to go into detail about each of these submission requirements, but you can find more information about them in the official rules document. Right, now that you know more about the prize, you can get started today. I want to talk about some of our resources that we have. I had previously mentioned our power connectors. Again, they are a great resource for competitors. Power connectors can support you by answering your questions, providing general feedback on your submission materials, and just again, providing general support for you. We have 2 power connectors that you can connect with, which is Ensemble and Yet2. This slide has their contact information, but you can find this information here on HeroX under the Power Connectors tab. So if you want to reach out to them, again, they're completely free for you to use and they can help you with your submission. If you're interested in connecting with other competitors to form a team and submit a package together, we recommend you check out our teaming tab on HeroX. You can fill out a form with some questions and then access a spreadsheet with other interested competitors to find a match that's best suited for you. So if you're interested in that, please check out HeroX and go to that team tab. If you're still interested in, or if you're interested in applying for the prize, follow these next steps to get started. First, follow the prize on HeroX. You will need to follow the prize and create an account on HeroX. HeroX is the only way you'll be able to apply for this prize. We're not taking any submissions outside of HeroX, so make sure that you do that, follow it, and create your account. And then read the official rules. Again, I don't know if you have caught this, but it is important to read the rules. It has all of the information you need for your submission. We've tried to lay it out as clearly as possible in there. It's going to help you be successful for this prize. So make sure that you read those rules before you get started. And then submit your submission by March 12th by 5 p.m. Eastern time. That is our cutoff, and HeroX will close. You will not be able to submit after that time frame. And if you have any additional questions, you can post your questions to the HeroX forum. You can utilize our power connectors for support, or you can message us directly at before.recycling@nrel.gov. You can email us there. We'll be posting any of those questions that we receive on email to HeroX under the forum, and we'll try our best to get back to you as quickly as possible, but there may be delays. Right now, it is time for our Q&A. If you would like to ask a question, please utilize that Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Don't use that chat function, as we may not be able to see it, and we want everyone to see your question and be able to see the answer if we write it or if we talk about it. Questions may be answered live, but all questions, again, will be answered in writing on HeroX. We'll post them as soon as we're able to, but it may be a week or so after. And then just as a reminder, this webinar is going to be, it is being recorded currently, and we'll be posting this video and the slides onto HeroX. That might just be a couple more days until we do that, but those will be posted and they will be under the resources tab on HeroX. All right, let's go ahead and get those started with those questions here. And if I could have Kate and Michelle join me to help with some of these questions. All right,
Sure.
let's start. Yeah.
Yeah, go
Go ahead,
ahead.
Kate.
No, go ahead, Kaylee.
I was going to say we have, I'm going to just take it from the top here. Our first question is, we are taking end-of-life recreational RVs that are headed to landfills and upcycling them into reusable mobile housing platforms for the homeless. We are diverting waste streams. We are going to create jobs for homeless and at-risk youth. Does this project fall into the scope?
Michelle, do you want to take that one, or do you want me to take it? I see you're not coming off mute.
You can take it, Kate.
Okay, yeah, so Kaylee, I'm going to try to answer several of these in the same answer, which is to say, if you are taking a material and you are doing a material transformation on that, so I'm seeing some, plastic water bottles to HVAC filters, this, I don't know exactly what the technology is for the recreational RV, but yeah, so the distinction I'm trying to make here is recycling is when you take a material and you change, you're transforming it either chemically or mechanically into something else. That would be, so there was a question about melting metals. There was a question of several in here about plastic pelletization and reforming into different materials. And I would say all of that falls into the bucket of recycling. And those are the pathways that we're, again, really excited about. And we've funded several projects in that area, but that's not the specific target of this prize. So I would say, unfortunately, not every REX pathway is going to be a viable pathway for every material, and that's okay. But this prize is really focused on all of those pathways that are not looking at recycling. They're looking at reuse, repurpose, remanufacture, refurbish, and repair. So I think that covered.
I think the first couple of questions, Kate.
Yeah. So the next question that I see that maybe wasn't covered with that is more around the 90-second video. Kaylee, do you want to respond to that one?
Yeah, I can answer that. So the 90-second video can't be any more than 90 seconds. It can be approximately 90 seconds. It can go up to 90 seconds, just can't go any longer than those 90 seconds. It could be less than 90 seconds. We're just giving you up to those 90 seconds. I also see some questions regarding the prize funding and restrictions regarding prize funding. There are no restrictions for your prize funding, so you may use that to do prototyping. You may do that to do some administrative tasks. There's no restrictions. That's the great thing about a prize is we're giving you those funds to assist you. We would like you to use those funds to continue advancing your innovation, but there's you don't need to report out what those funds are being utilized for. Let's see.
Yeah, so there was the next question that I see is about the advantages of forming partnerships or, keeping within a single team. I would say whatever is going to make the innovation in the supply chain viable, that's what we're interested in. We're not, if you look at the criteria, the judging criteria, which is included in the prize rules, that will give you an indication of what different dimensions we are looking at and what will kind of like score you points. So I don't believe there are any criteria explicitly looking at how many partners or the diversification of partners, but we are really interested in making sure that you have the people and the partnerships needed in order to that you're working towards a viable supply chain that could potentially be deployed. Yeah, so hopefully I've answered that question. Yeah, there was already a question about how the money is spent. We don't have any control over that. We don't. It's prize money, so is the nice thing about prizes.
Sorry, there's a question on here about HeroX about exporting the questions from the submission. So someone can review the draft before submitting, such as a board member or your team. Yes, you should be able to export it, or you can do PDF it and print it to review those. You should be able to. If you're having any issues, please reach out to us and I'm happy to assist you on the HeroX platform.
Yeah, so there's a question about eligibility, and I would just say if you have questions or concerns about whether you are eligible as a sort of lead of a team or as a participant on a team, I would just really encourage you to read the prize rules to answer that question. It should all be spelled out in the prize rules around eligibility. There's a question about the national labs providing engineering or more kind of process-oriented technical assistance. The resources that we have acquired in the national labs are specifically analysts. So their specialization is LCA and TEA. So they're not necessarily going to have expertise. They may incidentally have, some knowledge because these are very knowledgeable folks, particularly in the area of circular economy. So they may be aware of some engineering or process technical expertise, but their primary area of expertise is going to be analysis, and specifically LCA and TEA. Let's see, enhancement of building operations be in scope, allowing reuse. Yeah, so again, within the scope of the prize is reuse. So again, I would encourage you to read the prize rules, but unlocking a technology or developing a technology or promoting a technology that would unlock a reuse pathway, whether, so building infrastructure, I believe is in scope from a, material or product perspective. And so, so it, sounds to me like that would be in scope. Michelle, do you have a clarification?
Yes. The prize is looking for innovations. So I think the only thing to be careful there is that if it's an existing technology that only improves, let's say, building efficiency, that is not in the intent of the prize, but I would really refer you to the prize document. You know, we're interested in supply chains and we're interested in innovation. So just to keep that in mind. Thanks.
Thanks, Michelle. There is a question here about advantages, or is it advisable to form partnerships within a single team or collaborating? I think for this, and if Michelle or Kate have anything else to say that different, but you know, it's not going to be in terms of like your score advantageous if you're with a team or if you're an individual. I think though it's thinking about your innovation and what you're wanting to do with this innovation, and how you're going to scale that, and the resources. So if you're maybe it would be advantageous for if you have this great idea, but you need support and someone else to help you with that, to collaborate with another team, individual, etc., for your innovation.
Yeah, no, that's a good clarification, Kaylee. I don't have anything to add there. Just again, like reading through the list, the recycling of mine tailings and repurpose of precious metals for EV batteries or manufacturing purposes for the United States to meet requirements. You know, those sound like they could be a variety of different technologies, and I would again just point you to the rule document. And again, I know it is confusing because a lot of the REACT pathways, they kind of bleed into each other, and they can sound very similar, but we really are not interested in recycling pathways for this particular prize. And so if the innovation is only enabling recycling, or if the supply chain is only enabling recycling, we are not interested in that technology. This is a good question about phase one. So if you submit to phase one and you are not selected as one of the 20 winners, you can continue to develop. You know, I wouldn't say you wouldn't necessarily resubmit, because phase two is asking you for you know, the next step of development. So but you can continue and submit phase two application materials. You are not disqualified from submitting to phase two if you submitted in phase one and were not selected. You just wouldn't get the benefit of the prizes, you know, that came along with being selected as part of phase one. And that's, but yes, you would be able to participate in phase two. Phase two is an open competition where, you know, anyone can participate. Let me see. Okay, so there's some questions about the definition of repurpose and remanufacturing, and I would say the definition is in the rules, and so I would just, you know, familiarize yourself with the definitions that are in the prize rules document if there are questions. Let's see.
Hey, we are almost at time.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to scan the final. I know there's a lot of questions. It's really hard for me to tell you, you know, whether or not your specific technology would qualify. So you know, your technology is much better than I do. So I would just familiarize yourself with the prize rules and make that determination yourself. It may be worth consulting the power connectors to understand, how you may connect to other technologies if you're concerned about your technology not being sort of a full solution.
And I just also want to say too that with all of these questions that are being asked, if we don't get to your question, we will be answering it in writing and we'll be posting it onto HeroX later on.
Yeah. Yeah, and apologies if my answers were not clear. I do have, we have 5 more minutes. I do, there was one question that I saw about scaling up thrifting, for example, be out of scope. I think there would need to be a justification for, yeah, I think there would need to be a justification for, what new supply chain you're unlocking in that case. Because we are interested in expanding supply chains that have worked in one location to others, but we are also trying to, learn something and sort of like overcome, as Michelle mentioned, we're interested in technology development, we're interested in supply chain development. And so it's not, if it's just a matter of, if there's not a reason why, if there's not a challenge being overcome in that expansion, I would say it's probably not a strong application. But if there is a justification as to why something is being unlocked in a different or why a certain locality is more challenging, we know rural settings, for example, are much more challenging to establish some of these supply chains, but there's some innovation that's allowing us to be more successful, or that the reason for us to believe we will be more successful now in this other region. I think that would be of interest.
Thanks, Kate.
Okay.
All right, that concludes our informational webinar for the Re-X Before Recycling Prize. Thank you all again for attending today. We really appreciate it. And again, as I have mentioned, we will be posting this recording and these slides onto HeroX, as well as answering all of your questions and posting them onto HeroX. If you have additional questions, please feel free to post a question onto the HeroX forum, and we will get to you as soon as we are able to. We try and answer that quickly, but just know that there could be some delays, so we appreciate your patience. Again, thank you. We look forward to reviewing your submissions. Have a great day. Bye-bye.